Okay. Well, we're just talking to the back of our camera, so we have no idea what everybody is looking at, but hopefully you have a good picture. Good afternoon, Joe and Lynn Loya here.
Hi there.
We want to welcome you all back to the Gully School Kitchen. I think it was last year, we did something on chicken marsala, I think. And gave a little bit of history of our schoolhouse, so that's why we call it the Gully Schoolhouse Kitchen. But we are going to have a Clam Fest today. There's a couple of different levels of Clam Fest. Today we're actually going to do clam chowder, New England style, and also stuffed clams. If you want to get into a clam-orama, we usually add linguine with clam sauce. We do barbecue clams on the half shell. We do
Raw,
of course,
with,
raw, and clams. So, and clams casino, the variation on the stuffed clams. So we actually have done all of those a couple of times. So when I go clamming, and if we have a few other folks with us, we do a clam-orama. So more to come on that at some point. But first of all, a couple of things. I started clamming in 2018 when Lynn and I moved out here to Block Island full time. And it was actually in the late February, early March that I think I did my first clamming. And I was able to go I talked Sam Bird into showing me where he clams. Because that initially, when I asked him about it, he said, well, if I tell you where I clam, I'd have to kill you. But as anyone who's a clammer, I know Craig is on the line. We guard our clam beds with great care. Although pretty much everybody knows where all the clams are anyway. So much for that. Our family and friends really enjoyed doing this. I used to clam when I was a kid with my dad, but I was like 10 years old, so I never really hadn't done it since. So having learned it, our son and daughter love to come. When they're here, they visit. We have some friends, so it has become quite a social event. And it's also fun to go clamming with some of our friends on Block Island. Craig and Michelle are certainly one of my favorite clam buddies. Sam Bird, as I mentioned. So lots of other folks that we enjoy clamming together, especially this time of year when it's pretty darn cold, but all the more fun. And just for anybody who is, maybe you all are aware of this, but the clam season really for us islanders is October to May. So October, November, early December are wonderful times. It's not that cold. When you get into January and February, days like today with the wind blowing, not so much. But I'm sure there's going to be maybe a January thaw with no wind and temperatures in the high 40s. A perfect day to go clamming. At least I think so. I can't get Lynn to go clamming with me. She waits at home for me to bring the clams.
I just enjoy all the eating part.
So I think that's the story,
Yes.
Background.
I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. You will be hearing Lynn's voice every now and then to keep me on track. It's actually pretty hard to do this in a cogent manner in front of an audience, as opposed to just cooking yourself. So pardon me if I stem and stutter a few times, but Lynn will keep me on track. So I've done some preparation ahead of time. First of all, just to kind of streamline things a little bit. We're going to do clam chowder first, and then we're going to finish that. We'll have time maybe for some questions or a little discussion, and then I'm going to move to the stuffed clams. So on the chowder, this is I usually use a large. This is a 8-quart stock pot. Turn this down low right now. First step is bacon. So I will chop up maybe a half a dozen strips of thick cut bacon. I've already done that, but just to kind of describe the process, I'll fry that not so it's overly crisp, but fairly done. Take the clam, the cut up bacon out of the pot, and leave the the bacon fat that you get from, from that 5 or 6 the strips of bacon. I then add a stick of butter. In this case, it's unsalted butter. There's enough salt in the clams, the water, and I like salt, but I also know it's not too good to have too much of it. So this is, I think, a unsalted butter for this recipe at least. And that's the.
And then you cooked the clams ahead of time.
Oh yeah, the clams. Well,
right.
Okay, so a little bit about the clams. I froze these clams, and I have to give credit to Roberta McCormick for tipping me on that one a few years ago. I never thought that was possible, but as any Block Islander would know, maybe knows, you can take them right out of the water, clean them up a little bit, and throw them right in a Ziploc bag in the shell, and they freeze wonderfully. It's a great, and that's what I did because we went clamming at Christmas when our son and daughter and her fiance, no, she's married now. They got married this fall. My son's fiance, they all were here for Christmas, and I took them all clamming. And so we got quite a number of clams. And we ate quite a few, but I also was able to put a bunch in Ziploc bags and freeze them because we knew we were going to be doing this today. So freezing is a great way to do it. I will take them out of the freezer. They don't have to thaw them. So for the chowder, I used large quahogs, and I ended up putting about 30 into this big pot. Filled it with the 12 cups of water, cold, and then I kind of brought it to a boil, watched it that it didn't boil over, and that whole process is about 25 minutes, less than a half hour if you want to watch it. You don't really need to overcook. In fact, you want to cook them just under a little bit if you can, so that you have just enough so that they open up and you can kind of shuck them, get them out of the shell.
And then how about the clam broth?
The clam broth. So we definitely want to reserve clam broth for the chowder as well as for the stuffed clams. What I will do is I leave them in the pot, the clams in the pot, let it cool down a bit, take the clams out, and then of course shuck them. I let the clam broth settle a little bit because no matter how well you scrub the clams, you're always going to have a little bit of grit or sand in the bottom. So let it settle a bit, and then I will pour off and strain what I need. So for this is this is good. So I reserved. I'm going to use about 8 cups of clam broth, which is simply the water that these clams have cooked in. I find that works really well. Okay. Did I forget anything else?
No, I think we're ready to start.
Okay. So I'm cooking. My butter and my bacon fat are pretty much ready. In fact, it's starting to sizzle, and I just want to make sure that I don't overdo it. So I'm going to turn that off just for a second.
And what kind of butter did you use?
This was unsalted. Yeah, unsalted butter. So 1 stick of butter that's in there. Now, I'd like to do a coarse chop. This is really just a matter of taste. But so here's my onions. This was 1 large onion. And sort of I guess a 1/4 inch chop or so. You could even go a little bit heavier, but I think that gives a kind of a nice robust chowder. So I'm going to dump these in. I'm going to actually allow the onion to start to saute. So medium heat in the butter and bacon fat. Next is the celery. So I'm using 4 big stalks for this amount today. Again, so that we're, for the recipe, which I'm happy to share with everyone. If you would like, I'll make sure it's available. We're going to use 8 cups of clam broth. We're going to use 4 cups of light cream. So for that, I'm using basically 4 good-sized celery stalks. And again, this is something that's fairly easy to deal with because it's a fairly coarse chop. just a quick, quick coarse chop for the celery. Add that. Give it a stir. We have a nice simmer going on right now. Turn the heat up just a hair. Okay. Dice the potatoes. So
2 teaspoons thyme.
And I guess we'll add the thyme and the parsley. This is I think 3 or 4 tablespoons of fresh parsley. You know, if you're using dry, you can always cut it in half, use about half as much dry. But whenever possible, I certainly like to use the fresh. So 3 or 4, this is close to 4 tablespoons of the parsley, and I got a couple of teaspoons.
2 teaspoons
of thyme. I need another camera with the overhead. I haven't seen anybody do that, but we really should try to incorporate that next time. Okay. Dicing the potatoes. So a 1/2-inch dice. I've got some of these done, so I just wanted to kind of demo my approach. I'll do, roughly 1/2-inch slices. Again, I prefer a chunkier chowder, but that is somewhat depending on your personal taste, but I'm recommending you with a 1/2-inch.
Throw those bay leaves in.
Oh yeah, let's throw. We got 3 bay leaves. Sorry about that. We got 3 dried bay leaves. I'm going to put those in. Stir those in a bit. This is coming along nicely. Got a nice simmer going.
Gonna throw those into that water.
Yep.
And then you were gonna demo shucking and chopping clams.
Yeah. So just a couple of notes. So here's a couple of clams that I left. Actually, a lot of the ones that were in the pot are even bigger than these. Some of the real big boys, but I will remove them from the shells. And I just wanted to give you a sense of how I chop. I prefer to do the chopping manually. I have used a food processor, and it works, but I think it tends to make for a chowder too fine a chop. So what I actually kind of like to slice them by hand. So it takes a little while. So you'll be happy to know I'm only doing 3, but that gives you that kind of a coarser chop, if you will. Sharp knife obviously is important. Okay. And I talked about the freezing already. So again, these were part of they were in the freezer since Christmas time. So okay, and what am I doing next? I guess
You're gonna add the flour, right?
Ready for the flour. Yes. Give this another stir. I'm going to give it just another minute or so. For this quantity, I'm going to use probably a 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup of the flour. And I'm going to basically make a kind of a roux. So let's see what I do. Yeah, I think for this today, that it was a little more than 3/4. This was a 1 cup measure. Okay. So, you know, like you're making gravy, you want to actually toast the flour just a touch. So you want to kind of keep the burner going. Don't let it burn or stick, but kind of stir it around. Okay. And I think I'm ready for my broth now, right?
Um, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You were gonna kind of show what that paste looked like.
Yeah. Let me take it off quick so everybody can kind of see what's going on. This is the, you know, it's basically kind of coated. There was the 3/4 of a cup on the veg. Okay. Keep the burner going. So I preheated the broth. It speeds things up a little bit. So I've got this in a separate pan. And again, this recipe is calling for 8 cups of broth. So I'm going to do one at a time. Kind of stir it as you go. Now it will turn into, you know, sort of a very thick, soupy. It'll eventually become soupy, but that's 3. On the bottom. So about 8 cups. I think that does it. So give that a stir. I would turn this up now. We want to, that's still pretty hot because I had the broth on a simmer. So it pretty much is going to be boiling momentarily. And while that happens, I'm going to drain my potatoes. I had cut most of them before. I showed you a couple. So let me just quickly throw these in the colander. So again, that's about what I'm using. This was 6 or 7 medium-sized potatoes. Again, I like a lot of potatoes in chowder, so you can always go more or less on that, but that's, I got a nice boil here, so I'm going to throw that in, and that's going to take a little bit to simmer. So this typically is going to be about I think about a 10-minute simmer. Okay. So a few minutes on that. So the photos. So yeah, just a quick couple of photos, just to kind of show everybody what we're doing. This was let me see if everybody can see that. There we go. So that's me, of course, and that's a dead giveaway to where I am. If you can see Indian Head Point there, and the wedding trailers behind there. But that was Christmas time. Sunset, of course, as everybody knows, you can only clam until sunset, and I had a few more minutes, so I was on my way home at that point. Just a quick video. I think hopefully you can see this. This is low tech, of course. That fellow in the orange red hat is my new son-in-law. He's taken to clamming, really enjoys it, and actually has become quite the clammer.
So you do need to get a license for clamming, is that correct?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes, and we do. I actually am. I'm happy to say I have a golden license, which I'm of that certain age, and I happen to live here, so it only costs $10, which is nice. Let's see. There we go. Just because we're proud parents. That's the couple. That's our daughter and her new husband. They got married back in October in California. Showing their wares. This is outside of across from Fred Benson Beach, but they each had a pretty good haul.
So where do you get your license?
Okay, well, we get it from the Cape McConville at the Shellfish office. And for those seniors who live on the island, it's $10 if you're interested for a full year license. I do, when all our visitors come, I do, of course, go down there, and visitors pay $20 for a week. So and the problem is it's usually costs me that money, because when I'm taking people clamming, I feel like I gotta pay the license. So.
And what about equipment?
Well, I've got several clam rakes. The waders, I think from those pictures you probably saw that I've picked up 3 or 4 sets of heavy duty neoprene waders. My daughter thought they were very fashionable the first time she put one on. But they pretty much keep us warm. I'll put a pair of sweats on, and the boots are already on there. And I know Craig and Michelle, they love to go in their wetsuits because they're also scallopers. Craig is just teaching me to do scalloping, and hopefully next November I'll go back out with you and do a little more scalloping, Craig. But for now, on the clamming, at least, I feel pretty comfortable doing it. We'll bring them home. And what another interesting point I learned this from Sam a couple of years ago is, during colder weather, you can actually bring them back in a bucket of salt water, and you can leave them outside in salt water for several days. They keep in the water. I mean, if you're going to keep them longer, you would change the water, but he actually will keep a bucket of water outside on his deck with the fresh dug clams, and just leaves them in there until he's ready to eat them. Now, you don't want to do that in the summer, of course, when it's 70 or 80 degrees, but certainly in cool temperatures, they stay for a few weeks even in the saltwater bucket.
So in addition to the waders, what other equipment do you need?
A bucket with a pool noodle. I use a 5-gallon bucket, and we purchased a couple of those little pool noodles tied around it. I think that's what you saw in the picture there. A 6-foot length of rope. Put the rope around your neck. The Shellfish Commission asks that you wear your license and your measuring gauge around your neck, so that's another important part of the equipment. And depending on how cold it is, you got to bundle up. And then, of course, the clam rake is key for the process. We go into the water anywhere from 18 inches up to our waist, and have a lot of fun doing it. Okay, all right. I think this boiling is probably, this is about where we're good. This is the potatoes have cooked nicely. Again, you want them firm. You don't want them mushy. So we've got a nice thick broth going here. I am going to bring it over one more time just so you can see the step this is at. It's actually, hopefully you can see a little bit of that without spilling any all over. But we've got a nice full pot of chowder. Now there's no cream in this.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, it ain't New England chowder without the, I gotta add the clams, right?
Mhm.
Forgot. So let's let's do the clams first. This is about a 1 pound. So those 30 clams that I had dug, I weighed this. This was about 30, and I kind of shucked them and did that coarse chop. So as you can see, if I was doing this by myself, I would be giving you a pretty disorganized recipe. So Lynn's keeping me on track here. You put the clams in last because obviously you don't need to cook them. They're already cooked, and you don't want them to get, the longer they cook, they might get a little tough. So this has cooled this down a little bit. I'm also going to turn the stove down a bit. Before I,
Then we're ready to add the cream.
I'm going to add the bacon. I
Okay.
think I'm going to, and so my bacon bits. So that was the six strips of bacon chopped up. I'm going to do salt and pepper before we're going to load to the cream. So salt to taste. This is kosher salt. This size. I'm probably going to do a couple of teaspoons of salt. You can always add salt, in individual plates. And then this is white pepper. I've also done regular fresh ground pepper. The white pepper, at least in the chowder, a purist would say that's probably aesthetically more pleasing. A little bit of about a half a teaspoon or so, maybe a little bit more. And then I think we're now ready. We're now ready to add the cream. I'm going to give this one stir, and this actually looks pretty darn good. I'm pleased with this. It's thickened up nicely, just with what we've added. You know, that flour roux really does a nice job to give some thickness. But I am going to add. So this is 4 cups. So these ratios I'm giving you, it's 4 cups of cream. So it's kind of 2 to 1. You know, 2 broth to 1 cup of cream.
And that's a heavy cream,
This is
right?
light cream. I'm using
Light.
light cream. Yeah,
Okay.
I have done it with heavy cream. I think light cream works just fine, and I don't think you need the extra boost from heavy cream. So that I think is the story. Have I left anything out?
Just about, you know, discarding the bay leaves when you go
Oh,
to,
oh yeah, that's right. I probably would have left them in there. In fact, since I'm going to let this simmer a little bit for a few minutes, I'm going to leave the bay leaves on in for a little bit. But certainly before you're ready to serve or put this in any kind of containers, you want to remove the bay leaves. And I think that's the story. So that's pretty much the end of the recipe. And maybe if we want to pause for a minute, we can see
questions?
if anybody has questions or any comments on the recipe.
Joe, that looks fabulous. A variation on the clams that I have tried is rather than cook them first, I freeze them and then I take them out of the freezer and shuck them frozen. And then don't cook them at all, chop them up.
Yeah.
The salt water eventually goes away. And then when you throw them in the chowder to cook,
Yeah.
they come out super tender without having been cooked first.
Very good. Good suggestion. A little more work effort, I think, though, Craig. Am I right, or maybe not?
Well, it's about, you're maybe a little bit, but when you shuck them frozen, they just pop right out of the shell like that.
Okay.
Because the
So
shell's
you just-
already open. When it freezes, they expand.
Okay.
And so you don't have to pry the shells open. They're already open.
Oh, okay. You know what? I have never tried that, and I think I might give that a shot. That's a great idea. So just take them out of the freezer bag and just kind of do a quick shuck. They open right up at that point, I assume, right?
Well, they're open probably 1/8 of an inch already, and you just slide
Yeah.
the clam knife in, and in the salt water, it doesn't freeze so solid
Okay.
that you can't. It just pops right out. It really works nicely.
Okay. Good suggestion. I'll have to give that a shot next time. A great idea. Anybody else?
You need to unmute in order to ask the question, anybody.
When's dinner?
when's dinner?
When's dinner? Well, I'm definitely going to have some of this when we're done, for sure.
The only thing we're missing is that wonderful smell.
Right.
Yeah. This came out really well. So I think I'm going to basically turn this off at this point, because I think once all this is added, you're done. You don't need to. It's not like pea soup, where you cook it for hours, or chicken soup. It's one of those things where once everything is mixed, you're pretty much ready to go. Just a question, and maybe you have an opinion on this, Craig. As far as freezing, I actually have frozen it sometimes and came out okay. Sometimes it separates. Do you have any experience with freezing? I generally don't recommend freezing clam chowder.
I've never tried it, and I would think that it would likely separate. I've never tried it though. I don't have any experience with that.
Yeah. So
If you don't put the cream in it and then freeze it, it's all right.
okay. Oh yeah. I have heard that. That's a really good point, because the cream was the last thing I added. So you could bring it right up to that point freeze it, and then just kind of,
Hmm.
when you're ready, add the cream. Great idea.
Oh,
That's
great
another-
idea.
Yeah. Okay, good, good. All right, well, maybe we can move on. We're actually, we're good. We're at the halfway mark. So I'm gonna move a few of these things over, and we're gonna move to stuffed clams as part 2 of our Clam Fest. Okay. Here we go. We did try to get everything ready here for our next session. All right. So, oh, I've got to change my directions, my script here. Okay. There we go. I'm gonna put that over there. So these are stuffed clams. So this uses bacon. You know, a lot of times, certainly in the fish markets in Rhode Island, you'll see chorizo or linguica, you know, various other sausages of kind. I'm kind of partial to the bacon, although I've had many other really good stuffies along the way. Again, there's a bit of a do ahead that I took care of to get us to this point today. Same story with the clams. I steamed them frozen. For this, I used 24 medium-sized clams. So they're a little smaller than what I was using. And I used 2 dozen, which I think is just about what we need for this. And I think we'll see. I'm not going to stuff every single one of them, but I think it should give a couple of dozen stuffed clams once we're finished. Peppercorns and bay leaves. So I had a couple of bay leaves. I'd already done that, and a teaspoon or so of peppercorns. Similar to, you know, a lot of people use that when they're doing shrimp or shrimp boil. I like to add those kind of things along with vinegar when I'm doing shrimp. But for the steamed clams, the peppercorns and some bay leaf gives it a little spice. Again, you're going to want to reserve, you know, some of the broth. Now I've reserved this broth separately because it does have the flavoring in it that I want to be in the stuffed clams. And of course, you got to save the shells. I have dug clam shells out of the trash once or twice because I got so excited about having gotten that far. I dumped them, and then I realized, well, wait a minute, what am I going to put these in? So in this case, you want to save the shells. Generally, I always do that ahead. Let the clams cool, a lot easier to handle. And I'll talk a little bit about what to do with those shells in a moment. So I'm just going to quick give these a chop. Again, I prefer to do a finer dice with for the of the vegetables as well as the clams when you're doing stuffed clams. So
Gonna put our pan on for,
pan. Okay, that's right. I got another pan here, so I'm gonna move my water over. I want to get this pan going. So this is actually similar arrangement. I fried the bacon. This was I think 5 strips of the same kind of, you know, thick cut bacon, and also a stick of butter. And this time I'm using salted butter. So, you know, we're not using as much of the clam broth. So the Ritz crackers, which we're going to go, those got salt on it, and the salted butter. Again, for those of us who are really watching our salt, that's a personal choice. But at least the recipe I'm using is got the salted butter. So that's gonna heat up my stuff there. Okay, so I've set the pan to medium heat. I've already added the butter into the bacon fat, finer chop. So what I'm going to add now is 1 cup of a fairly fine dice of celery. I do the same with a red pepper. I think the red pepper, I've used green as well. Red gives a little color. And then 1.5 cups, a bit more of the onion. Again, fairly fine.
That's what I'm trying to get him to. It's, I did, oops.
Joe, you're.
Roberta, you need to repeat yourself, please. Okay. Let me see, where is he? I lost Joe.
Say it to him.
Joe? Joe, can you hear me? We can't hear you. You gotta unmute your computer.
Okay, I think you're
Okay.
good.
All right.
Try it again.
Thank you.
That was might have been an operator error. I don't know. All right, we're back.
So I don't know how much
Let's
people
see,
missed, so
Yeah.
maybe do a quick
Just-
rewind.
Just a quick beeline. I talked about the clams, breaking them in half, using them for the shells, washing them. Here's the, again, these are cleaned and dried. 2 dozen of these are ready for stuffing.
Maybe just a quick review of what's in our saute pan.
Okay, just in case I was not sure when we got muted, we've got the peppers, the onion, and the celery all finely diced. And it was 1 cup of peppers, 1 cup of celery, and 1.5 cups of onion. Okay,
And that we added to a stick of salted butter
take the salted butter
and
and
some bacon
the
fat.
bacon fat. Yep.
Okay,
All right, so I think we're ready. Our saute is doing pretty nicely here now. After that, I'm going to add. This is the reserved broth from the clams because it had the bay leaf and the peppercorns in it. I'm going to put about a cup in. Yeah, that's about a cup. I don't think I need all of that. A couple other things that are going in now. I've got 2 tablespoons of fresh parsley, and I got. I'm going to hold off on the lemon juice just a bit right now. So I'm going to do the parsley. And again, similarly to the conversation we had about
Worcestershire.
the Worcestershire. Okay, so I'm going to do a tablespoon, 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire.
And then we have lemon juice and cayenne.
Yeah, so I'm going to do the lemon juice. This is 2 tablespoons of fresh squeezed lemon juice. And I'm going to do a 1/4 tea of cayenne. This is just gives just a touch of heat. Again, this is something you could leave out if you prefer to have something a little milder.
Anyone bring the pan over?
Yeah, sure, I can
This
do that. I think give this a stir. So this is pretty soupy right now. So hopefully you can see that. It's almost like it's soupy. But I think at this point I can finish this over here because I,
Add the clams and the bacon bits.
yeah, as I said, this is, the cooking is mostly done at this point with the veg. So I'm gonna add the bacon bits and the finely chopped clams. This ended up being about 10 ounces. So, again, there were 2 dozen of those medium-sized clams. And again, I think Craig's point about, cutting them up right out of the freezer, certainly that works as well. I mean, these will be in the oven when they're cooked, 25 minutes, half hour, something in that category. So I'm giving these a good stir. So this is still fairly loose. So now is really basically the fun part, for me at least, because you can take, I think we'll see. I think 3 is what this will call for. I just like to kind of squeeze this.
What do you got
sleeve.
there?
Oh, I got Ritz crackers. I got Ritz crackers in the sleeve. I just think that you can kind of really squeeze them. You can always just, mash them up with a rolling pin, but I think it's kind of fun to just play the accordion with a sleeve, and then drop around. Just that kind of crush seems to do a pretty good job. Oh, okay. We're gonna see what 2 looks like. This is a little bit of by feel. Spoon. You can always play around with the amount of liquid. Like if it ends up being a little too loose, you add a little more crackers. This definitely needs the 3rd sleeve. It's definitely mushy. You don't want a mushy stuffing. I think you're best off when you kind of have it a little bit on the dry side for stuffing purposes. So I'm going to go ahead with the 3, and because if I for some reason add too many crackers, I can always add a few minutes, a little bit more of that broth. This is where you also want to keep some extra clamshells, because I can't guarantee that these will all fit in that 24. They may, but I reserved some additional ones that I had. So yeah, this is, I think, a nice combination of. Yeah, okay. This is still fairly loose. I think I might actually add a few more. This could go in. This could stuff, but I think I might. I'm going to get a few more. I think a few more crackers would be good.
Okay.
So I've now definitely, I'm going to have a few more stuffed clams than I initially thought. So that's okay. We've got plenty of shells. So this ended up being 4. Again, I think it's just a matter of, kind of doing it one thing at a time, and you can adjust accordingly. I just want to show you kind of what I think is a good consistency of this here. Still a bit soft, but I think this is fine. This will firm up nicely. The only thing that I haven't added yet to this is the paprika, and that is something we're going to use for a dusting. So I'm not going to stuff all of these, but let me kind of just demonstrate a few of what we're going to do. So pretty much, I don't pack them super tight. Okay. Let's do a couple more here. But it's kind of colorful because we've got the green celery, we got the red pepper. And again, I don't like to pack them too tight, just kind of mound it up a little bit. And I think that's pretty much the story. Again, let me just finish this one up.
And then you would just,
Yeah, so I
Along.
mentioned the paprika, just move this over for a bit here. So once these are all done, typically I would then do just a little paprika on top, just to kind of a little light dusting. Okay. Okay, so that's the story. Now, once these are done, I mean, once they're all in the shells, you have your choice. You can put them directly in the oven, and I bake them 25 minutes, 375, preheat the oven to 375.
and that's uncovered.
That's uncovered. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Now, the other thing that I found works really well is I'll make a whole tray like this and just pop it in the freezer, for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. They'll freeze fairly quickly. You don't even have to cover them. I just kind of put it in the freezer, take them out, and they're frozen. And then you can just kind of put them into a Ziploc freezer bag or a plastic container, and then put them back in the freezer. So you can freeze them on the tray, and that way they don't stick to each other. But then I'll usually just put them in a Ziploc bag, and then we have uncooked, and then we've got them frozen and ready to go anytime we want a couple of stuffed clams. Works really well. This is a great weeknight snack or dinner. Might be dinner tonight, actually. So I think we might be doing stuffed clams and chowder tonight. So, but that is the story. So I think with that, maybe we'll open it up and see if anybody has any questions or comments on stuffed clams.
Joe, I may have missed it, but when did the lemon juice go in?
Oh, I put that into the soupy veg mix, Craig. So after I added the clam broth and all the liquids, I basically added the
Parsley,
the
Worcestershire.
and the lemon juice before the clams or the bacon or the stuffing.
Thank you.
What does the lemon juice do for it?
Oh, it's a flavoring. I think it just balances nicely because you do have some saltiness going on. I find that it just gives it a nice crispness, if you will. It's not so much a preservative. I find that a little lemon juice gives just a touch of a tang. That, and you've got the Worcester. So I think it makes a sort of a nice, sort of a little bit of a tangy flavor. Not super spicy, but that's why I like to put it in. Anybody else?
Anybody else have any other questions? That we really like to have a couple of, and it looks wonderful, and the soup looks, the chowder looks delicious.
Well,
And I want to thank you very much for.
Joe, thank you so
Yes.
much for doing that. It's Gloria. Hi.
oh, hi, Gloria. Hey, I before I go, I did want to actually follow up on that last comment, because we will have a lot of stuffed clams, and we have this huge pot of chowder. So I want to make an offer to everybody on the call today, and that is that if you want to send me an email, I don't know if you can see that. Maybe I'm going to go over here. Send us an email. Can we read that? I'll just tell you, it's jloyajr@gmail.com. What I'd like to do is I'd like to offer you some of the chowder and a couple of stuffed clams. So if you can send me an email, I will say first come, first serve. I'm not sure how many will take us up on it, but we actually got some containers, and I'd be happy to make a delivery tomorrow, probably sometime late morning. But if you are interested, send the email. And if I don't know where you live, please give me your address and some idea. But I would be happy to share. We would be happy to share this, and hope you'll take us up on that so you can kind of give it a taste.
Thanks for the offer.
Nice.
You're welcome. Well, I hope to hear from some of you.
Good.
Joe, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You're very
Wonderful
welcome.
program.
Well, thank you all. Great to see you all. And we'll look forward to another session at some point. Take care now.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
again.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Joe.